Okay, so good day everyone. So last semester we discussed about the program administration solely for public administration students, and now we will be discussing about the public personnel administration using the course module that I compiled. By the way, I am Melchor P. Dioso, and I am a teacher or instructor of the public administration. Okay. So this public personnel administration is of course the main purpose of why we are teaching this subject is to assist future public servants. So these future public servants are the public administration students as well as other programs or other field or other area that would be the government servants or the government employees in the future. When we say public personnel, some programs or some courses would better known this as the human resource management. Okay, so public personnel administration as one of the core subjects of the PA focuses on the management of agencies human resources. Okay, so in a manner that assures the best output with the least costly input while protecting and enhancing the welfare of the workers. Since the personnel or the human resource is considered as the most important resource in a certain organization, may it be the government or may it be in the private sector, it is of course very important that we study the factors, the certain things that affects how these government employees, how this personnel works in the government, what are the certain salary compensation, what are the certain motivational factors. Okay, so studying what would be the best type of leadership, what would be the best type of management that we should give or that we should employ this particular personnel is of course one of the main reasons why we are studying this public personnel administration, because at the end of the day our very purpose here is of course to develop or enhance and advance the welfare of these workers. Okay, since we are already aware that the largest employer not only in the Philippines but also of other countries, of course the government. Okay, so in general this course module or this subject will cover the overview first. Next is the recruitment, selection, and placement, employee and career development, performance appraisal, the employee benefits and compensation, complaints and grievance, public conduct, and ethics. Of course, these are not the only subjects or these are not the only topics that covers the public personnel administration or human resource management, because this course or this subject covers broadly almost all other public administration topics or public administration as subjects. Okay, so I just chose these particular lessons, these discussions, because I think that these topics would be very important in making the public administration students aware on the general, of course, on the general setup of public personnel in the government service. Okay, so first we will be having an overview of the public personnel administration. So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to first be familiarized what is the public personnel management, what are the nature, what are the aims, what are the different concepts. Of course, most importantly, the equal branches of the government, because these equal branches of the government has its own different personnel and the management of this particular personnel. Determine the role of the CSC or the Civil Service Commission as the commission mandated by the Constitution, of course, to safeguard the welfare of the personnel in the government service and identify the differences between the public and private personnel administration. Okay, but before we start our discussion, let us have first the quotation from the third president of the United States, which is Thomas Jefferson. The care for human life and happiness is the first and only legitimate object of the good government. There are many other important resources in an organization, may it be private or public. We have money, we have the facilities, okay, we have the we have the let's say, how do you say this, we have these objects, we have these things, we have the supplies, but the most important resource is of course the human resource or the personnel, because the all other resources that I have mentioned earlier, sino bang gagamit nun, sino bang ang mag-utilize nun, who will take care of it, who will make sure that these other resources are taken care of? Of course, it is the public personnel or the human resource. It is actually a cliche in an organization or in the study of human behavior and the business management and public administration that the priority, of course, of the organization is its clientele and stakeholders. And among those clienteles and stakeholders is their own employees or workers. So throughout the world, public personnel management is widely recognized as essential for effective government. Government is just a system. Okay? Government is just an organization. But in order for the operations and practices of this government to be effective, of course, you have first to have a good and excellent workers or employees. Okay? Increasingly, it has become to view the shared role of governments, including the private corporations, international development organizations, as the key to sustainable development. We recognize that throughout the world, human resources are potentially available, yet in practice, wasted. We are studying human resources management. We have been studying public personnel in almost all subjects and courses, may it be engineering, may it be social sciences, may be education, but we still don't have any standardized. Okay, we still don't have any standardized and the perfect human resource management style. However, in the government, we are being governed by the Civil Service Commission, memorandum circulars and rules and other orders or laws that is being promulgated and being formulated, of course, by the Civil Service Commission, especially in the protection of the human rights, especially in salary and compensation and the likes. Okay? So personnel administration is the totality of concern with human resources of an organization. Basically, all other discussion and topics that involves the human resources is concern of personnel administration. However, this particular subject does not only start with selecting employees. We do not start here with only knowing how to recruit employees or applicants. Of course, on how to take care of these employees after they have been employed in this particular organization. Okay? What made you choose this career is what made me go into politics. A chance to serve, to make a difference. Of course, as public administrators or as public servants, it is not just a job. It is a vocation. Okay, that's why in the Philippine government, tatagalogin ko, in the Philippine government, sinasabi lagi sa atin na kung gusto mong yumaman, huwag kang magtrabaho sa gobyerno. Bakit laging ganon? Kasi walang yumayaman sa gobyerno. We are public servants and we, unlike other positions, unlike other employees in the private sector, we are not really that have so much compensation. Wala tayong masyadong malaking sinusweldo because this is a vocation. We are servants. We are serving the people, and this is not only for earning money. Okay? According to Magamay, personnel is always the most important asset because we are the core and the backbone of any organization. All organizations won't operate without the public personnel or the employees and then the workers, from the top management up to the lowest management, up to from the regular, from the permanent, okay, up to the casual, up to the job orders. Okay? So what are the general aims of public administration? First is to recruit, select, and advance employees. How are employees being admitted and hired and trained in an institution? Next is, of course, the study of compensation. When we say compensation, it includes all other monetary values such as salary, wages, and etc. Of course, train employees. It is not only enough that you are hired in an organization. You should be continuously developed and improve. So that is the purpose of training. Retain employees, of course. So when we say retain employees, we don't hire people we don't hire people so that after a year they are going to resign. There should be a retention. So how do we retain these employees? There are certain motivational factors. We raise their salary, we give them additional benefits, and the likes. Okay? Assure fair treatment of applicants and employees. So we, of course, attend to the grievances and complaints not only of the internal employees but also other clients and stakeholders. This is very important because this is also a factor in the retaining employees or employee retention. And of course, assure that employees are protected against coercion for partisan and political purposes. So since we are in a government service, there's so many politics going around. Okay, from the compensation, from the hiring, from the promotion, from the demotion, from the training, development, and etc. So maraming politika sa gobyerno, and it is very important that we study a certain code of conduct or code of ethics for government servants so that we will know how to act as a public servant. Of course, first, before we study the public personnel management or administration in your own organization, we have to go back first to the study of the Philippine government. So, papasadahan ko na lamang to. Just do some your own research. First, we have the executive department. We have the executive department. It is the branch of the government that carries out laws. Okay, this particular branch of the government implements and executes the laws that is being formulated in the legislative department. Okay, so these legislative, executive, and judicial branches of the government are co-equal, meaning to say walang mas makapangyarihan. They all serve a certain purpose and they are subject to check and balance by each other. Okay, so the judicial checks the actions of the executive and the legislative. The executive branch could also check the formulation of the laws and policies that is being conducted in the legislative branch and vice versa. So in general, legislative create law, executive department execute those laws or implement those laws, and the judicial branch evaluates the law. So particularly in the judicial branch, it analyzes if the laws being formulated by the legislative and the laws that is being executed and approved in the executive branch are not unconstitutional, of course. Okay, na hindi siya in conflict with other general laws and other specific laws. Okay? So ano ko na to, papasadahan ko na to, you already know this one. Under the legislative is the Senate, House of Representatives, and the party list representatives. Under the executive department are the president, the highest position in the government, the vice president, the cabinet members, and the judicial is, of course, it includes the courts, especially the highest court is the Supreme Court. Okay? So now let us move on to the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission is one of the 3 independent constitutional commissions, meaning to say the 1987 Philippine Constitution specifically stated that these commissions are free and independent, meaning the government does not control these 3 independent commission. Dapat wala silang control dito because these commissions checks the operations and practices of the government. They are free from control. Okay, they are independent, they are autonomous, but still the people who heads them, the appointment of the people who leads these particular commissions are still subject, of course, to the commission on appointments. Okay, that with members coming from the different government agencies such as the Senate and the House of Representatives, is still being approved by the President of the Philippines. So these 3 independent commissions include the CSC, that is solely and usually includes or covers its functions that involves public personnel, commission on elections, on how certain elected officials are being elected, of course, how do we conduct elections, and the commission on audit, which conducts an audit on all the operations of the government. Make sure that the COA or the commission on audit ensures that the government operations is of course aligned with existing rules and regulation and laws and policies. The CSC, however, or the Civil Service Commission, is responsible for the recruitment, building, maintenance, and retention of a competent, and highly motivated government workforce truly responsive to the needs of Filipino people. This particular commission makes sure or ensures that the government servants or public servants adheres to rules and policies. Sila ang naniniguro ng mga nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno ay nagtatrabaho para sa gobyerno na naaayon sa mga existing rules and regulations, na ito ay isang huwaran, na ito ay hindi korap, na ito ay nakangiti pag nakaharap sa mga tao, na ito ay nasusweldohan ng maayos, okay, ng gobyerno, okay, na ito ay namumuhay ng simple. So there are many responsibilities and duties of the Civil Service Commission. So in the career service, by the way, in the employment in the government service, yung categorization ng isang nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno, meron dalawa. The career service and then the non-career service. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng career service na ito? In general, pag sinabi nating career service, ito yung mga nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno. These are people who works for the government that has been employed based on merit and fitness. Ibig sabihin, naging qualified ka with the minimum qualification, na meet mo ang minimum qualification ng Civil Service Commission. Okay? So, nag-undergo ka ng competitive examinations, nag-undergo ka ng interview, and etc. para ma-employ ka sa certain position na iyon. Okay? There's also an opportunity for advancement to higher positions kasi there's an opportunity or possibility na ma-promote ka. Okay? And security of tenure. Pag sinabi natin na security of tenure, ibig sabihin, the government or the head of the certain organization cannot just terminate you. Hindi ka pwedeng alisin lang basta-basta ng head ng organization because you are secured in your position. You can only be terminated in your position pag meron kang nalabag ng batas at the civil service, nakasuhan ka ng civil service o kaya ng ombudsman at pinaalis ka ng korte. Okay, unlike in the private sector. Sa private sector kasi, there are instances that any employee could just be removed from the position by the desire of the head of that certain organization. Hindi po pwede yung sa career service. You are secured by existing CSC rules, laws, and policies. So ano bang example ng mga positions sa career service? Mga undersecretary, assistant secretary, yung mga sa cabinet members ito. A bureau director, let's say yung undersecretary ng Commission on Higher Education, or undersecretary ng Department of Trade and Industry. Okay? Career officers, gaya ng Career Executive Services, mga nasa Armed Forces of the Philippines, personnel ng government-owned or controlled corporations. So, ito yung mga kumikitang korporasyon or kumikitang business ng gobyerno, gaya ng GSIS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, and etc. Permanent laborers, workers, whether skilled, semi-skilled, or unskilled, mga job orders, mga casual, okay? Mga presidente ng isang state universities and colleges, okay? Yun po ang mga example. Ang pinaka-purpose lamang, the most important point or emphasis that I'm going to give in this career position or career service is that you are employed based on merit and fitness. Nag-apply ka at nakapasa ka sa minimum qualification ng civil service. Pag sinabi naman natin na non-career service, these are position in the government na hindi dumaan sa merit and fitness. At ito ay limited lamang ang kanilang trabaho. The duration of their work is only limited for a period of time. Okay, so para mas maintindihan natin ang non-career service, then basically they are not based in merit and fitness. Ibig sabihin, unlike doon kanina sa career service, kailangan mong pumasa halimbawa ng sub-professional, civil service sub-professional examination, or civil service professional examination. So bago ka ma-permanent sa gobyerno, kailangan mo munang mapasa ang ganong klaseng examination. Sa non-career service, hindi na kailangan. Bakit? Because this includes elective officials and their personal or confidential staff. Ibig sabihin, kailangan ka lamang iboto ng tao, gaya ng mayor, barangay captains, congressman, president, and etc. Kailangan kang i-elect ng tao kahit na ikaw ay, let's say for example, hindi nakapagtapos ng pag-aaral, because the minimum qualification naman is for you to be able to read and write. Okay? Secretaries and other officials of the governments who hold at the pleasure of the President, yung mga in-appoint ng Presidente na Secretary ng Department of Education, Commission on Higher Education, mga cabinet members, hindi na po kailangan dumaan ng hindi na po yan nag-undergo pa ng check and examination ng civil service. Okay? Most importantly, their let's say for example, their appointment is limited to a period time. Normally, coterminous sila. Pag sinabi natin coterminous, pag natapos na ang term ng presidente, then basically, wala na rin sila dun sa posisyon. They should render resignation na unless i-rehire pa rin sila or i-retain sila ng susunod na presidente ng Pilipinas. Okay? Contractual personnel or whose employment is in accordance with a special contract. Ito, i-correct ko lang yung sarili ko. Kasama dito yung mga job orders na kanina kasi nabanggit ko dun sa career service sila. Hindi na po sila kasama dito because they are normally contractual personnel. It's either or job order at saka mga part-timers because it's either hindi nila na-meet ang minimum qualification gaya ng civil service passer sila or sila ay may master's degree kung teacher sa state universities and colleges. Okay? So yun ang pinakaiba ng career and non-career service. Anong pinakaiba ng public sa private sector personnel administration? Of course, public employees operate in a different legal environment, especially concerning discipline and termination. So gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, in the government service, hindi ka pwedeng, pag ikaw ay permanent o regular, hindi ka basta-basta pwedeng tanggalin ng boss mo kung kailan niya lamang gusto. It must undergo a certain rules and procedures that involves other government agencies such as the Civil Service Commission or Ombudsman or Sandigan Bayan. So, hindi siya ganun daling matanggal sa trabaho unlike in the private sector. But in the private sector, at the pleasure of your boss, you could be terminated from your position. Lines of authority are less clear in the private sector. Sa government service kasi, very specific ang trabaho ng isang tao. Ibig sabihin, may duties and responsibilities ka. At yun lamang ang gagawin mo at susundin mo. Although in reality, syempre, marami pa rin additional na trabaho. Okay? But, in the government service, very specific yan. Nasa manual yan. Nasa iyong PDF form. Okay? A personal description form. Pagkakaalam ko ng PDF form. Na pinapasa sa civil service. There are specific duties and responsibilities for each personnel. Bakit merong specific duties and responsibilities? Kasi, lalong-lalo na yung may mga plantilla. Sabihin, pag plantilla, may plantilla positions or items from the government are those that can be permanent or regular. Okay? So, para magkaroon ng ganyang posisyon sa gobyerno, kailangan merong specific duties and responsibilities. Pagka nag-apply ang isang government agency ng plantilla sa DBM, humingi ng item or plantilla sa gobyerno at hindi malinaw ang specific duties and responsibilities, hindi ma-justify sa Department of Budget and Management or DBM, hindi ka bibigyan ng item or plantilla kasi hindi naman malinaw ang specific duties, hindi kailangan ang posisyon na yan, hindi kailangan ng item na yan. So for example, isang administrative aid sa isang opisina, kung hindi naman alam at malinaw ang duties and responsibilities, hindi magkakaroon ng posisyon na ganyan, ng permanent position na ganyan sa opisina kung hindi specific ang duties and responsibilities, hindi i-approve ng Department of Budget and Management. Employer-employee relations have followed different path. Sa gobyerno kasi, so there are certain times that tumatagal ang mga employees doon sa particular position na yun kasi hindi mabilis ang promotion. I could say this is a reality. Hindi mabilis ang promotion sa government because there could only be promotion if the next higher position becomes vacant. Paano lang magiging vacant ang next higher position? Kapag nag-resign yung next higher position, pag siya ay na-promote din, or pag siya ay na-terminate. Okay, so hindi ganun kadali ma-promote sa gobyerno. Sa private, probably ganun din ang magiging scenario. However, they could create items, they could create positions, they could promote employees, probably with less consideration doon sa nasabi ko kanina sa government service na situation. Okay? Kasi hindi ganoon kadali magpa-approve ng posisyon, ng item, o kaya ng plantilla sa gobyerno. Hindi ganoon kadali magdagdag ng permanent or regular item or plantilla position. Hindi kagaya ng nasa private sector. And on the other hand, in the private sector, talagang profit-oriented. Pag sinabi natin profit-oriented ang mga employee natin, kailangan ma-meet nila ang targets nila for a certain time, gaya ng weekly, monthly, kailangan makabenta ng ganitong klase, kailangan may sales sila na ganito, or hindi sila magkakaroon ng additional compensation, or mabababa ang kanilang performance. Ganon din naman sa gobyerno. However, when you are in the government service, certain targets and accomplishments ay quarterly madalas na-check or annually. Okay? Though in public and private personnel administration, both targets and accomplishments are very clear for each personnel. Very clear pa rin naman kahit papaano. Okay? It's just that in the private sector, normally, pag na-reach ang target, na-reach ang accomplishment, there is a monetary reward. There is a certain benefit na matatanggap, additional benefit, may pera na matatanggap galing sa organisasyon or sa kumpanya. The political environment affects public personnel to a greater extent than it does in the private sector. Of course, very important ito kasi nasa gobyerno ka malamang, so there is a greater degree of political interaction with other people. And there are certain issues na kung saan mapopromote ka lamang, ma-hire ka lamang if you know somebody inside the organization or inside the government office or agency. Totoo naman yon, though of course the appointment and the hiring of a certain employee is still in the discretion of the president or the head of the agency. May discretionary power na binibigay sa mga heads of agencies para mag-approve ng appointment ng isang tao. And it is a reality na kapag syempre kahit ikaw ang number one sa interview, ikaw ang number one sa examination, ang nire-require lang naman minimum qualification ng civil service. So pwedeng i-appoint pa rin yung mas mababa sa iyo ang mga nakuhang rating. Pero na-meet pa rin naman nila ang minimum qualification ng civil service. So in general, these are the overview of the public personnel administration in the Philippine setting, of course, and we will be discussing each and everything sa mga susunod nating mga lessons. Okay, thank you so much for listening.